In this week's parasha, Parashat Toldot, we're now beginning to move into generation 3.0. We still have a lot of Yitzchak and Rivka Torah in this week's parasha, but we're beginning to make our first steps towards getting to know Yaakov Avinu, and actually getting to know his brother Esav as well. And I saw a deep idea in the Megaleh Amukot on this week's parasha, where he speaks about this bigger paradigm, this bigger division between the Esav and the Yaakov. And he sees in the Esav and the Yaakov this division between good and evil, tov vara. He takes us back to Cain and Hevel. He takes us back also to two midot. And in the case of midot, we know we want both of these midot. We're going to have Rahamim on one side, Din on the other side. So he says we're going to have ourselves two children right now. Yaakov, who's going to come from the side of the Rahamim, Esav, who's going to come from the side of the Din. We've spoken a lot in the past. Esav is the psolet of Yitzchak, which is the Din side. We spoke about Ishmael being the psolet, of Abraham being the chesed side, but we have ourselves this concept of a baruch and an arur. Basically, we're going to make this black and white a dichotomy. That's what's taking place right now when we have ourselves a Cain and a Hevel. And he actually says, the Torah even hints to it when it says, habanim dekirba. When Rivka got pregnant, she got very nervous. Like, what's going on? Inside my stomach, they're acting all weird. And actually, the Midrash takes it even a step further. She'd walk by the Beit Midrash, and it felt like one baby would come out. She'd walk by the Beit Avodah Zarah, and another one would come out. She didn't realize it was two kids. But this whole concept of this dichotomy, one that wants tov, one that wants ra. So says the Megaleh Amukot, Vaytwotetzu habanim. Why does it say habanim? Behei yadua al bet banim harishonim. This takes us back to the original two children, to the original Cain and Hevel. And what's taking place now with Yaakov and Esav is we're trying to make a bigger fix in what took place, because ultimately Hevel, which he sees as the good side, as the Rahamim side, was murdered. And because he was murdered, a lot was lost right now. And now it's like this kind of like this fight to come back and bring back the Koach to the side of Hevel. When you can even see this in the imagery of Yaakov coming out second after Esav grabbing onto the heel, grabbing onto the Ekev. He's just trying to get back what's been lost in the past. So Rivka, who was so nervous, didn't know what's going on, so she went. She went to go and find God. According to Midrash, she went to the yeshiva Hashem Ba'ever. She went to go speak and get advice. What's going on with me? And they explained, you have two nations inside of you. These are going to be rival nations. And then ultimately she gives birth. And then when she finally gives birth, what do we have? We have twins, bebitna. Now says the Megaleh Amukot, beautifully deep stuff right now. He says, Tomim and Bebitna, twins in her stomach, Haser Yud and Aleph. It's written Tomim, Taf Vav Mem Mem, but really it should be spelled Teomim, Taf Aleph Vav Mem Yud Mem, meaning there's a missing Yud and Aleph. It's written in a very funny way. Why does it say Tomim instead of Teomim with an Aleph and a Yud? What is this Yud? Why is there a missing Haser Yud Aleph? So explains the Megaleh Amukot, Raza the Aleph Yud, the Yud Aleph, this 11 is a hint to the statement Hevel Achicha. Once Hevel was murdered by Cain, so Hashem asked Cain, where is your brother? Aleph Yud. We're missing, meaning in these kids right now, we're trying to fix the lacking of Hevel in the world. And he says, if we have ourselves two kids, we have ourselves, if Yud Aleph corresponds to one twin, so if we have two twins, we have to have two Yud Aleph. Two Yud Aleph together is Kaf Bet, is 22. 22, he says, are the Tzionarot Ba'olam. It's the pipes that bring down all the Shefa into the world from the 22 letters of the Torah. So we have our 22 letters of the Aleph Bet. So he says we have a Yud Aleph and a Yud Aleph. What's the symbol of Yud Aleph? Yud Aleph. What is Yud Aleph all about? So if we have this dichotomy between Yaakov and Esav, a Cain and a Hevel, or now he's going to go in the direction of Din and Rachamim, so he says, that's why we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem Elokeinu is Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokeinu. The Yud of Hashem Elokeinu starts with an Aleph, that's a Yud Aleph. Hashem Echad, Yud Kei Vav Kei is Echad, again a Yud and an Aleph. So the first letter of those last four words is Yud Aleph, and that's the Achdut of the Din and the Rachamim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to create the world with Din, sees he can't make it, so he has to add Rachamim. This Shiluv of Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Yichud Kushar B'Richu. We want to bring together HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have ourselves the Yud Aleph, but with what took place with Cain and Hevel, we had lost a Yud Aleph because Hevel was murdered. He even says even more than that. He says Yud Aleph or Yud Aleph Bet Hem Din, Yud Aleph Hem Rachamim. So interestingly enough, he says that the first he says a certain amount. He didn't say which ones, but he says 11 letters of the Aleph Bet correspond to the Midah of Din. 11 correspond to Rachamim. We said once in the past that when you go Aleph Aleph Bet in normal order, that's Rachamim. When you go backwards, Tav Shin Reish, in the other order, it would be Din. So he says even the letters, 11 letters correspond to one, 11 to the others. Nechlakin al Tov Vara, and they separate corresponding to a good and a Tov and a Ra. But when Hevel was murdered, the 11 letters of Rachamim were taken away, disappeared. Va'ata ba Yaakov, but now Yaakov is coming to make that tikkun. V'lakach yud brachot shel Esav, and now comes Yaakov, and he's going to take the 10 brachot of Esav. We know that that's the famous Torah said from the Ramami Pano that I believe there's a Megaleh Amukot that says it also, if I'm not mistaken. But that Yaakov was really supposed to be Ekev, Esav was really supposed to be Asui, and then Yaakov grabs the yud from Asui. This the yud that's added to Yaakov's name. That's the yud that he took from Esav. That's 10 brachot. And he says that Esav was left with only one beracha. So Yaakov now comes back and he has his original Yud Aleph, and he's taking back Yud more from Esav, and now there's one left, and that's why when after Yaakov gets the bracha, Zeh Shamar Esav, later on in our parasha, Habracha Achati Lecha Avizaba. Is there not one blessing left? And ultimately he's going to get the blessing. That's going to be the blessing of living by the chereb, by the sword. But he says, Halo berkat Yaakov rak im yud berachot. Says Yaakov took 10 brachot. I got it. He got the yud. Yaakov got that yud. We spoke about that in the past. He got the yud. But there's yud aleph brachot. Don't I get one? And ultimately, Esav is going to have one. So he says, but if you do the math now, so if Yaakov is always supposed to have yud aleph, and Esav is supposed to have yud aleph, but then Yaakov took the yud, so now Yaakov would have 21. Nimtza, he says that's why the pasuk in Tehillim says, Ach tov la Yisrael, and there is ach tov, there's good, but with the word ach, what is ach? Ach is kaf aleph 21. It's the 21 pipes of shefa that are going to come down, because he had the original yud aleph plus the other yud from Esav. We have 21, and therefore we have 21 out of the 22. 21 letters, 21 out of 22. There's one letter, there's one beracha that Esav still has. And he continues, and this is the sodo. This is the idea of the verse towards the end of the parasha. Once Yaakov gets the blessing, as he's leaving, Esav comes in a second later. It says basuk, Vahi kasher kilai Yitzchak nevechat Yaakov. The second Yitzchak finishes blessing Yaakov, Vahi ach yatsa Yaakov me'et pnei Yitzchak avi ve'Esav achim ba b'tzido. That the second ach yatsa, the second that Yaakov is going out, at that exact moment Esav is coming in. It says ach yatsa. What's ach? Ach is 21. He's leaving right now with the 21 berachot. He's having the original yud aleph that was always supposed to be his, plus the extra yud that he's getting from the bracha, and he's getting from the bechorah that he's taking from Esav. And he says, this we can see is hinted to in many places in the Torah. He says, for example, we got the Yud Aseret HaDibrot, which starts with the letter Aleph, again the Yud Aleph, and it's Evisiyamo Bach, and the very end of the Aseret HaDibrot, the last word is the word Bach with a kaf at the end. So again, we have the Aleph and the kaf, meaning Harei Ach. We have our 21. We have 21 berachot that have come to us. He actually brings a more scary pasuk from Echa, that ultimately the Ach is going to get flipped over in the times of the destruction. But for right now, Yaakov is beginning to make the tikkunim, and he's beginning to get those original blessings. And we see beautifully that a missing Yud and Aleph in the word twins is not a random missing Yud and Aleph. It's really the whole backstory of this fight between Yaakov and Esav, for Yaakov to bring those brachot back to the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom.